Stop trying to help those that don't want help at all. They pretty much just say to themselves every time you try to help them out, you give them positive advice, give them encouragement, the whole 9 yards. And all they do is pretty much just go to the wayside and pretty much go, oh, no, I'm not doing that, whatever. For you it helped, but for me it didn't. You know what I mean? And I got to go through my own path. My path ain't your path. When you got those type of people who are not trying to take the mindset and just, yeah, of course, everybody's experience is different. But if they're not willing to take the advice and run with it, and they want to just pretty much marinate in their own BS, let them marinate in it, because all you're doing at that point is just telling people, you're pretty much giving out energy that's not necessary, and it's not going to do anything for you, and it's only going to get you more aggravated. You don't want nothing to disrupt your peace trying to help somebody out. I remember I had a friend who sat there, right, had a toxic relationship, you know what I mean? And I remember, him coming to my house, whatever the case may be. And I was like, how's everything going with, him and his relationship? And he was like, she be getting on my nerves. She got kicked out, this, that, she kicked him out, whatever the case may be. He had to live in a motel, or he rented a hotel, whatever. Then right after that, because he was in his emotions, instead of him trying to let the night rest or at least talk to her, he went to go talk to another female to kind of get, I guess, recognition, because, he has emotional problems. And I was like, all right, so you cheated on her, you had a break, whatever, and she told you to leave. So instead of you just thinking about it and pondering on the things that went wrong, you went and slept with another chick. How does that help out the situation? For me, it helps out, you know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, I just had to get my rocks off. But then what happens with her? Oh, no, I still love her. You don't love her, bro. You don't love her. You don't even love yourself. Because at the end of the day, what happens if she went out there and she did the same thing you did? Bro, we're not going to get into that, bro. This, that. I'm just trying to have conversation, because at the end of the day, I'm trying to understand you. You know what I'm saying? Do you understand you? And I remember we was going down this spiral of just different information and, trying to see where his head was. But, again, when people kind of made up their minds, even though they don't know what their mind is really made up of, you kind of got to, ask yourself, is it worth the conversation at that point? One thing about us, especially when I was younger, number one thing is we try to battle, somebody's thought process to try to narrow it down or see where the issues are lining up at, to where, okay, this look like this could be the issue. Let's go ahead and analyze that and let me try to help you to get out of that. But one thing you got to understand, when people got their mind set up and they don't, they don't want help, even though it's kind of like they want to hear advice, but then they really don't, you got to kind of leave them in their own place, because at the end of the day, all they trying to do is sink you down to what their level is and just pretty much have the acceptance of that. And you got to understand, sometimes when you have people like that around you, you kind of put yourself in a state of being somewhat like them. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, it's just I can't have that type of situation. You can't have that type of situation. You can't be around those type of people that's willing just to stay in that particular boat. I've had situations where I've had friends who, I saw them going down the wayside, doing drugs, this, that, and the third. And I just said to myself, I just watched them over time, and I just started seeing certain things. And I would tell them why they were doing the things that they were doing. And they would just tell me, this is my life, this is where I want to live it. And I didn't want to be that way, and I didn't want to be around that situation at all. I ended up, going somewhere, got a house, did what I had to do, while these people still living in the street, still in the streets, still living, the way they living. I don't know how they living, how they doing it, but they doing it. But, it came to my mind, the more that I tried to help them and try to see if they could achieve or get somewhere where I, not where I was, but to even better than me, just to try to see if they could get into a situation to be in a better situation for their lives. They didn't want that. And it just got to a point where I was just like, all right, well, this is where I got to leave it at, and this is where it has to stay. My goal is trying to give the cheat code for people who see issues with people or see certain things with people. And, of course, you want to help everybody in your circle. But you got to understand, some people in your circle are going to fall off the way they got to fall off. And maybe they'll grow from the situation, but you ain't going to be the one to do it. You know what I mean? And it's all right to have a voice. It's all right to pray for them. And you just got to leave it there at times and just push certain things to rest. And the moment you do that, things would be a lot more peaceful in your circle. It's unfortunate that, you know, things have to disperse and get away from, you have to get away from. But you gotta understand, as you're getting older, as you're becoming an adult, you know, this for the young adults too, that's growing up. Yeah, sometimes those people that you have in your circle could be the same people that bring you down, and you don't need that. So stop trying to like help everybody that don't want to be helped, because at the end of the day, your help can literally be your downfall for your situation. You know what I mean? So just want to address that, and just keep it pushing, stay positive no matter what the situation is, and things will get better over time. This your boy Cool 187. I'll holler at y'all. You guys have a great day. Peace.